Happens to everybody all the time. It does.
We'll be starting when we get to the top of the hour or maybe a minute after. Okay, we are going to start today's Sustainability Essentials webinar now. I am Susan Ingalls. I direct Sustainable Furnishings Council, and I'm delighted to welcome you all, and especially to welcome Barry Chick, who is our guest presenter today on the topic of avoiding harmful chemicals in your design projects. I'm going to give you an introduction to our work in general, then Barry is going to give us his presentation, and then we are going to take your questions. I've got you all on mute. So to send in your questions and comments, please use the questions box on the right-hand side of your screen. We do want to hear from you, even though we've got you on mute now. So like I said, I'm going to start with a bit of an introduction about Sustainable Furnishings Council. We are 15 years old now, and we're going to be celebrating that milestone in High Point on April 1st. So I hope you will join us for the party. More info on that on our website. Sustainable Furnishings Council is a coalition of companies and organizations involved in the residential furnishings industry in various ways. So when we started in 2006 and now, our membership has included suppliers of materials, manufacturers of all kinds of furnishings products, stores where these things are sold, designers and other specifiers, and importantly, environmental conservation organizations who have provided great guidance for us from the beginning. In the beginning, our first job was to determine what are best practices for sustainability in our own industry, and then to set standards for recognizing exemplary implementation of those practices, and then to begin educating the industry and building markets. That is what we have been up to these 15 years. A few years ago, we did establish the Sustainable Furnishings Education Fund, which helps us get the word out to the general public and spread our educational information further than just our 400 member companies. Our core educational programming is called Green Leaders. It's a 6-hour, 6 CEU course that is approved for those CEUs through IDCEC and through GBCI. So if you are interested in the kind of thing we're talking about today, I hope you'll consider taking that course to get more information from us. It is available online anytime. And also online, you can find a list of all our 400 member companies, each of which, like Naturepedic, has made a public and verifiable commitment to sustainability and to transparency and to continuous improvement. If you and your company are not a member, we invite you to join us. Sustainability, as you probably completely realize, is an umbrella term. It is a broad field. There are many interrelated aspects to sustainability. Often we find people's eyes glaze over. So to keep it from being too overwhelming, we tend to divide the topic into 6 aspects as we go about our business of helping businesses reduce environmental footprint and helping consumers find the more eco-friendly furnishings they would prefer. Those 6 aspects are maintaining health and wellness, ensuring social equity, reducing waste, managing water, incorporating circularity, and reducing carbon emissions and other greenhouse gas emissions. Importantly, these things are all interrelated. So as you're hearing what we're talking about today, I hope you'll keep that in the back of your mind. The furnishings industry is related directly to all these many sustainability aspects. We are a global manufacturing industry. We burn a lot of electricity as we make things and a lot of fossil fuels as we transport things around the globe. Much of what we make is of wood, so we have a large responsibility for saving the forests of the world and halting deforestation, which is one of the largest drivers of climate change. And we put a finish or a glue on almost everything we make. The significant thing about that is that adhesives and finishes are major emitters of volatile organic compounds, one of the things we'll be talking about today. But there are other hazardous chemicals, not only those VOCs, but others that are very common in furnishings. And often these chemicals result in toxic waste that, for instance, the textile industry is one of the most chemically intensive in the world. And when you are looking at a bolt of textiles, say you're looking at 10 pounds of textiles, you are looking at 1 to 10 pounds of chemical inputs. So it is, and that is, of course, one of the significant ways that our industry sometimes inadvertently pollutes. A lot of water pollution can result from other aspects of our production, like leather production. And when there is pollution in production, it is often the workers who suffer first. And workers are compromised not only in our industry, but in others. But many are shocked to realize that cotton is cultivated with forced labor in 19 countries, even to this day. So it is, and so our attention on social equity issues is very important throughout our supply chains. Finally, we throw away an awful lot of furniture. According to the EPA, 12 million tons of furnishings are discarded every year, which is 6% of the entire landfill real estate in our country. So our planet is in trouble, as y'all will have noticed probably this. So what we're looking at here is a video of how the planet has warmed up since early in the Industrial Revolution. The climate crisis is one aspect of the way we are polluting our world, and it is one that we are concerned about and that we have direct impact on. So you can see here how severe the crisis is, how red our planet is now. The fact is that it is not only our outdoor environments that we have polluted, but also our indoor environments. Our indoor environments are sort of exploding with chemical presences. And we are concerned about that. So about 5 years ago, we started the What's It Made Of initiative with partner organizations. And our concern with this initiative is to encourage transparency in our supply chains and to stimulate innovation so that we can move away from this handful of hazardous chemicals that are most commonly found in furnishings. And we'll be talking about them today. The VOCs like formaldehyde, I've already mentioned, flame retardant chemicals, the PFAS chemicals that we use in a lot of our stain treatments, the antimicrobials that are so popular these days, and PVC or vinyl. These are all persistent in the environment, and they are all linked directly to harm to human health and to other life on the planet. So it's important that we have an awareness of these harmful chemicals and that we have some idea how to avoid them. So I am so pleased that we have Barry Chick as our guest presenter today. And Barry, I am going to turn it over to you at this point for you to further introduce yourself. What impresses me most is your expertise as an environmental engineer and your understanding of hazardous chemicals, and the fact that you are the founder of our favorite mattress company, Naturepedic. So Barry, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you, Susan. That was a great introduction, and we're honored to be working with Susan Inglis and Sustainable Furnishings Council, and we've been working together for years, and we really appreciate what Sustainable Furnishings Council is doing and promoting. Okay, I'm Barry Chick. When I was in engineering school, this goes back 50 years, the joke in engineering school was the solution to pollution is dilution. Very funny, except we were realizing that it wasn't so funny at all. I live close to Lake Erie, and right about then is when Lake Erie was dying. And by the way, it's illegal to commercial fish in Lake Erie, and that's been going on since 1970s. It's still illegal to commercial fish because the mercury levels are so high. And so what I realized was you can't just dump toxic chemicals into the environment or into products, into anything. There comes a point when you're going to pay a price. You just can't keep doing this forever. And when the day comes when you pay the price, it's going to be a very difficult price. All right. Okay. So my credentials are: I'm a board certified environmental engineer, certified by the Institute for Professional Environmental Practice. I'm a certified hazardous materials manager. I'm a registered environmental manager. I'm a certified diplomat forensic engineer, certified by the state of Ohio EPA, and I'm a certified professional engineer. Okay, next. Here we go. All right, here we go. What is the underlying difference between the environment found in the homes of our ancestors versus the homes of today? All right, it's very simple. It's called petroleum. If you could walk into your grandmother's home and look around, you'd see lots of wood, you'd see cotton, wool, flax, steel. Today, you walk in the door into your own home and look around, and you're going to see a lot of petroleum. Everything is made with petroleum. Not everything, of course, but a lot of things are made with petroleum. And petroleum is a different kind of material. The petroleum type materials are not natural as opposed to the wood and the cotton. Okay, so there's all kinds of toxic chemicals being mixed into the design. And there's also flammability issues, which we'll get to, and so on. So we're living in a different world than our grandparents. And that's the first thing and most underlying thing that you just have to understand. Okay. All right, next. All right. Are we safe in our environment? The answer is no, because today we live in a synthetic, toxic chemical environment. So just real quickly here, how many chemicals have been created in the past century that never existed on planet Earth before? All right, so there are many calculations, but the official calculation from the EPA is approximately 85,000. 85,000 new chemicals that didn't exist before. Okay, how many of those chemicals have been tested for toxicity in a serious manner? Not many. All right, there are no laws that tell you what you're allowed to put into the product that you're making, you know, or not allowed to put into the product. There are a few, but for the most part, if you're a manufacturer of household products, you can use any chemical you want and put it anywhere. And if the product is coming from China, you know, they'll use a toxic chemical to save a nickel, though it happens every day. So that's the world that we live in. Okay, next. Is our synthetic chemical environment improving? The answer is no. They're actually making more and more and more chemicals. You know, even though currently there's a big movement to try to be more attentive to the issues of chemicals, but there's no laws, and it's a free-for-all business environment, and businesses do what businesses do. And like I say, if it's coming from overseas, you know, it is what it is. And we have to just start to look at things ourselves and decide how we want to deal with this. Okay, so there's the 250 pounds of chemicals per person every year. All right, how do chemicals in our environment poison us? So here are some examples. So, you know, dermal exposure, cosmetics, body creams, deodorants, shampoos. I'll give you an example. I was invited to speak to some interior designers, and I think it was in Beverly Hills at some fancy hotel. And the speaker before me was talking about lotions and the importance of putting natural, good lotion on your face and on your hands every morning when you wake up, and so on and so on. And then it was my turn to speak. So I got up and I said, you know, everybody, I agree with every word that the previous speaker was telling you about all these nice lotions that you should be putting every morning when you get up. But guess what? Before you put all those nice lotions on, all those healthier lotions, why don't you get your face out of the toxic pillow that you've been sleeping on for 8 hours? And then you can put the healthy lotions. But for 8 hours before that, your face is right into a pillow full of all kinds of toxic chemicals in many cases. So dermal exposure is very important, okay? There's transfer of chemicals to fetus and amniotic fluid and so on. There's inhalation issues, air fresheners. Your typical air freshener, give me a break. That's a bunch of, in most cases, that's a bunch of toxic chemicals. All you're doing is putting toxic chemicals into the air, which only hurts people, okay? I mean, there are some examples that are really bad, and air fresheners happens to be one of them. All right, ingestion, the obvious kind of stuff. Okay, next. What are the primary groups of chemicals of concern? Okay, so VOCs are volatile organic compounds that come out of products. Okay, VOCs by definition means chemicals that do not stick into the product. We don't always understand that. It's another basic point that we have to recognize, and that is that sometimes a chemical will stay inside a product and it will never leave. That doesn't make it good, but we need to understand at least that much. Whereas there are many other times the chemicals will actually leave and get into the air where you can breathe it. Okay, you know, like phthalates from vinyl. Where now sometimes the chemicals that get into the air, sometimes you can smell it. And if you smell it, obviously it's coming from the product. It's getting into the air. You can smell it. But many times, toxic chemicals will come out of the product, but they don't have a smell. It's not necessarily the case that a toxic chemical will have a smell or will not have a smell. So just be aware of that. Okay, then there's PFAS, perfluorinated chemicals. These are chemicals that are basically used for waterproofing, and they can be very toxic. There's phthalates. That's something that's used in PVC, vinyl. The difference between PVC and vinyl is that it's all perfluorinated compounds. Okay, it's all, excuse me, PVC. It's polyvinyl chloride. So when polyvinyl chloride is hard, as in the PVC in your pipes at home, that's polyvinyl chloride. It's hard. It's not soft. In order to make it soft, you have to add chemicals called phthalates. And when you add the chemicals called phthalates, it turns it into soft, and then it's called vinyl. But it doesn't stick. Everything, all the chemicals in vinyl come out into the air where you can breathe it, which is why when they make vinyl, it's at least 30% just phthalates, just plasticizers, because you have to put a lot, because it's all going to come out into the air. And if you want that vinyl to stick around for many years, you got to start with a huge amount of it. So 30 or even 40% sometimes of vinyl is phthalates, okay? But it comes out into the air. Then when the vinyl gets old and it starts to crack on you, that means the phthalates are all gone and you're going back to the hard PVC. Okay, antimicrobial chemicals. All right, so you walk into a store and you want to buy a product and it says antimicrobial. Okay, it sounds good. You'll pay a little bit more for that, won't you? But guess what you're paying for? You're paying for them to spray the product or add, in one sense or another, pesticides, and they're mostly all toxic. So they're adding toxic pesticides, which will kill certain microbes. You know, sounds great, and you're paying for those toxic chemicals in the product. Do you really want those toxic chemicals? Okay. So be aware. When something says antimicrobial, it may be bad, not good. All right, flame retardant chemicals. Flame retardant chemicals are a problem because of the petroleum. If everything is being made with petroleum, petroleum is very flammable. Polyurethane foam, for example, which is a major ingredient in furnishings and mattresses, in sofas, in upholstered chairs and whatnot, and polyurethane foam is very flammable. And in order to keep the flammability under some sort of control, they add a bunch of flame retardant chemicals. But the flame retardant chemicals can be quite toxic. All right, and then there's more. Okay, next. All right, volatile organic compounds. So volatile means it can evaporate into the air. So these are chemicals that evaporate very easily. And a lot of things can be volatile. Volatile organic compounds doesn't just mean a very select group of chemicals. It's a general term that covers all kinds of chemicals that can be that can get into the air, it can evaporate into the air. They mostly contain carbon. They can be derived from fossil fuels and so on. But the modern understanding is that VOCs are all derived from petrochemicals. So as a general rule, the VOCs are related to petrochemicals, meaning are related to the petroleum-based products. And most of VOCs are toxic. Okay, next. All right, PFCs. These are used as waterproofing all over the place. For example, there are manufacturers who are removing vinyl from crib mattresses. Crib mattresses used to be all vinyl, but because of the toxicity of the vinyl, and a lot of people are finding out about it. So manufacturers are removing the vinyl. Now they're using perfluorinated compounds to provide the waterproofing. What they're not telling you is that the PFCs are just as toxic as the phthalates were in the vinyl. So that's the next problem that we all have to face, and that is just because you see a product and it says this product does not contain X, Y, and Z. Oh, but what did you add instead of the X, Y, and Z that you're not telling us? That's the question you have to ask. Okay, just because it doesn't contain something is not the whole story quite a bit. Okay, let's move on. Next. Phthalates. So phthalates are specifically a chemical that's added, as I discussed before, that's added to vinyl. Vinyl with phthalates, of course, is one of the more toxic materials that you can buy. If you can avoid vinyl, that's a simple one. Just do anything you can to avoid vinyl, because there's all kinds of phthalates that are in there, and they're all volatile. They're all coming out into the air, and so on. Okay, next. Antimicrobial chemicals. All right, antimicrobial chemicals are pesticides, which is what I told you a few minutes ago. All right, so pesticides, by definition, kill things. That's what pesticides are supposed to do. They're supposed to kill pests. All right, but if that's all you understand about it, it sounds okay. But the fact of the matter is, pesticides are basically toxic. And what are they doing to you? And if there's a pesticide added to a product and then you're using that product, what's that chemical doing to you? Okay, and we ask ourselves, how come people are getting sick? All right, more than ever before, apparently. All right, if you're 40 years old and you're already taking 10 drugs a day, because of this sickness or that, what's going on? All right, and part of the answer, at least, is you're getting bombarded with chemicals, and antimicrobial chemicals are just one of those obvious examples. Like, who needs it? You're better off trying to be a little bit more natural and keep a clean environment and leave it at that. Don't allow the manufacturers, the business world, to just load you up with one toxic chemical after the other. And remember this, we talked a few minutes ago about chemicals that there are like 85,000 officially chemicals. Now the chemical industry, they take the position that the dose makes the poison. If the dose is low enough, it can't be poisonous. And on paper, that's correct. If the dose is low enough, it's not a poison. It won't hurt you. But what they don't tell you is, well, okay, wait a second. So at what point is this chemical actually gonna hurt you? They don't know that part. They just play the other side, saying the dose makes the poison, and it's probably a low dose. But I don't know, how low is low? At what point is it hurting you? And oh, wait a second. What about if we're talking about a pregnant woman? What if we're talking about an older person? What if we're talking about a baby? Okay, different doses can be poisonous for different people. How do you deal with that? Oh, and what about if this little tiny bit of chemical, if you're getting it every single day for years? Oh, didn't think of that, did they? All right, and how about if this little tiny chemical combines with that little tiny chemical and creates something new that nobody ever even thought of? Didn't think of that. So we're dealing with all these issues, and antimicrobial is just one obvious example. Okay, next. Flame retardant chemicals. Flame retardant chemicals. If you have a petroleum-based product, there's a good chance you have flame retardant chemicals in there. If it's a petroleum-based foam, like a polyurethane foam, you always have flame retardant chemicals associated one way or another, because you're talking about one of the most flammable materials on Earth. Okay, so of course you're going to get flame retardant chemicals if you're using polyurethane foam and other petroleum-based materials. Okay, let's move on. All right, so on the left, you'll see polyurethane foam. On the right, you'll see untreated organic cotton. This picture was taken just literally seconds after it was ignited. It would have been hard for you to understand it when you first looked at this. But basically, what you're looking at here is that on the right side, when you ignite the organic cotton, yeah, it burns a little bit, it turns black, and you're done. There's no more heat release from that organic cotton. And the definition of flammability is heat release. Okay, more heat release means more flammable. So on the right side, you ran out of heat release within seconds almost. On the left side, you're looking at the polyurethane foam. It's the same, okay, it's the same volume of polyurethane foam as the organic cotton was. But on the left side, your polyurethane foam, it's releasing heat. When you see what you're looking at right now is a picture, a video of the heat that's being released from the polyurethane foam. And it's releasing heat, and it keeps releasing heat, and it keeps releasing, and it keeps releasing heat, and it keeps releasing heat. That's how much heat is coming out of polyurethane foam compared to the organic cotton that you ignited at the same time, and you were done in a matter of seconds. It released whatever it released. It wasn't that much, and you're over with it. The point being, once again, just to make sure this is clear, with polyurethane foam, you have an enormous amount of heat that will be released, okay? An enormous, you're taking it, the reason we have major fires, you know, today, more so than we did in earlier days, is because you have more polyurethane foam. You know, in your grandparents' days, when there was a fire, you got out of bed, you got everybody out of their bed, and you ran down the steps and you got out of the house. Today, everybody's dead whenever there's a fire, you know? And why do you have such huge amount of damage and people dying every time there's a fire today? And just on TV, whenever you see these situations when there's a big fire, it's because there's a lot of polyurethane foam, and once that polyurethane foam ignites, forget it. You have heat beyond anything that you can imagine, and beyond anything that existed in a typical home 50 years ago or more. Okay, next. All right, what are the potential health impacts of chemicals of concern? So here's just some examples. So volatile organic compounds, here are the subgroups, and you know, they're carcinogens, they're neurotoxins, respiratory irritants, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, they can give you cancer, headaches, dizziness, nausea, on and on and on and on. And then the same thing with PFAS, with perfluorinated compounds, phthalates, flame retardants. All these things are associated, all these health impacts are associated with these chemicals. They really are, okay? And don't kid yourself. The more of these chemicals that you absorb, you know, the more you become, you know, a target for all these health impacts. You know, it's pretty straightforward, really is. Okay, next. Should we have to wear protection to live in our homes? No. Let's try to find a way to solve this problem without being ridiculous. Okay, next. How do you reduce and prevent harmful chemical exposure? By design. Okay, so let's take a look at some ideas. Next. A home is your castle. Design it to be safe. Know the materials that are going into your home. Next. All right, so the first step is take a look at the materials one at a time. What are you buying? What's it made of? So what's it made of is a group of organizations that work as a team. Sustainable Furnishings Council, you know, in association with the Center for Environmental Health, for the American Sustainable Business Network, Healthy Materials Lab at Parsons, and others. And I'm very happy that Sustainable Furnishings Council is taking a lead with this, because we're now trying to educate the public about materials, products, what's it made of. Okay, next. So let's talk about the different rooms in your home. So let's look at the bedroom. So the biggest item in your bedroom is your mattress. Guess what? From the moment you walk in the door to your home to the moment you leave, where did you spend most of your time? At the beautiful dining room table that you got with the beautiful chandelier? No. You know, the nice sound system? No. You spent most of your time on a mattress in your bedroom. Okay? So let's take a, and there are people who will spend all kinds of money to decorate their home, and they won't think twice about the mattress, and the mattress can be 10 years old, full of all kinds of stuff, and nobody's paying attention. Many people are not paying attention. So just look at the mattress. Polyurethane foam is probably the single biggest item. If you go to sleep on a typical queen size polyurethane foam mattress, you are sleeping on 20 gallons of petroleum. That's what you're sleeping on, 20 gallons of petroleum, a lot of chemicals. Okay, so that's the issue with mattress. You have VOCs, you have flame retardants, vinyl has phthalates, antimicrobials, and PFAS, formaldehyde glues, GMOs. All right. Then there are other issues. The pillows can have the same problem as the mattress, blanket and sheets, carpeting, curtains, upholstered chairs, paint. You have lots of chemicals. All right. You got to look at every single item and say, okay, what can I do to improve this? What can I do with the mattress to make it a mattress? And the answer with the mattress is organic. You go with an organic mattress. What do I do with a pillow? Same thing. Go with an organic pillow. Same thing for blankets and sheets. Carpeting is not so simple, but your cheap carpeting with all kinds of toxic chemicals, try to avoid it. I'd rather get a beautiful rug from your Persian rug, you know. That's a little healthier. Curtains, you know, what's the curtain made of? Try to avoid something that would have flame retardants. Upholstered chairs is full of polyurethane foam. Paint, try to get paint, you know, that's low VOC or no VOC. Okay, pretty obvious. Okay, let's go through the other rooms of the house. Next. Okay, living room. So the couch is similar to a mattress. It's full of polyurethane foam and some of the same other ingredients. Upholstered furniture, same thing. Full of polyurethane foam. Try to avoid that. Wooden furniture, yeah, if it's really wood, okay, and it's not fake and it's not full of chemicals, it's great, or at least a lot better. So just look at the finishes and ask what kind of finish, you know, is on this product. Same thing with carpeting. Just try to find out what the carpeting is made from and what was added to it. See if you can get that information. Curtains, flame retardants, electrical equipment. Electrical equipment, you can have flame retardants and you can have electromagnetic frequencies. So this is something that's a little bit new, and that is electricity gives off electromagnetic frequencies, and some people are pretty careful about that, but it has not reached widespread focus yet, but I'm afraid it will sooner or later. The point is that there are electromagnetic frequencies being released by electrical equipment. We're talking about electrical lines. So if you have wire in one wall more than in another wall, then you want to stay away from that wall, because that wall will will give off a lot more electromagnetic frequencies. Let me say the same thing a little bit bigger. If you go outside, look at, and if you have electrical lines running down the street, I'm not talking about underground electrical lines, regular electrical lines, and there's a line between that and the home you're looking at. Okay, so the electricity is hitting the home on one wall at one point somewhere, and it's usually going down that wall, say to the basement, and then from there it gets distributed throughout the house. That wall where the electricity comes in from the street, that wall has the highest EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. All right, go inside the house and look at what's on the inside of the house up against that particular wall. And you would be best off not to put any beds up against that wall. You'd be best off not to put a couch up against that wall, or an office desk or anything like that. Move everything to the other walls. And this way you will reduce the EMF. Very simple way to do that. Okay, let's move on.
Oops. Oops. I pushed the wrong button. We're going to move now from the various, this is the slide we're on here. Sorry about that, Barry.
Okay, other chemicals of concern found in typical homes. So once again, air fresheners is what really drives me nuts. But you know, there's problems with other things, with cosmetics, food. Try to get food that's natural. I mean, that's pretty obvious. All right, perfumes, mothballs, furniture polish. Try to avoid those chemicals. How do you identify non-toxic, chemical-free, harmless, safe? Okay, so the first point to remember is that these terms are not legally defined. So what's non-toxic? I don't know. What's non-toxic to me is not going to be the same as non-toxic to him or her, or to that person, or to somebody else. Same about chemical-free. First of all, chemical-free doesn't exist. Everything has chemicals. We're trying to get rid of harmful chemicals. You know, it's not a yes or no. It's not a right or wrong. When it comes to chemicals, there's a range, and you have to just try to get as close as possible to you know, to the lifestyle without all these chemicals. But there's no one point. Okay, you went to the next slide. That's okay. What should you be looking for in the consumer products that you bring into the home? So transparency. Find out who you're doing business, who you're buying it from. What are they telling you? Are they answering the questions? Is it being certified? What's the we have to talk about certifications in a second. And is it being audited? Are there advocacy organizations that will promote or that will stand up and defend this product over that product? But the main point is transparency. Okay, next. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about some of the certifications. So the first one is GOTS, which stands for Global Organic Textile Standard. GOTS is certifies textile-related kinds of products. They'll certify clothing, they'll certify mattresses, and all kinds of fabrics, and they're basically an organic certification. So if a fabric was made from organic cotton, the organic cotton was certified by the USDA, National Organic Program. It was certified on the farm by the USDA, and then it goes to the factories where it gets turned into a fabric. GOTS will handle that part, so that the fabric that you're buying, if it's GOTS certified, you can rely that it's quite a good product. Okay. But when you're looking for certifications, let me just stop for a moment and make one point. There are a lot of people who will buy some component from a GOTS certified manufacturer and then borrow the logo and put it on their finished product. That's illegal. but it's done all the time, and I mean all the time. It's unbelievable. Okay, the only party that's allowed to use a GOTS logo or any logo, the only party that's allowed to use a GOTS logo is the party that GOTS itself certified. Okay, not a subsequent manufacturer who bought one thing from this GOTS, certified supplier. So just be careful that the GOTS certification has to say exactly which entity and which product is being certified. Okay, GOLS, Global Organic Latex Standard, is a latex. It's the same idea as GOTS, but GOTS is a fabric-based certification for products made with fabrics, whereas GOLS is a latex for products that contain latex, mattresses and otherwise. GreenGuard tests for VOCs. GreenGuard basically takes your product, any product, and it puts the product in a chamber and lets the product evaporate VOCs, and it measures the total amount of VOCs over a period of time that's coming out of that product. And if you meet their standard, you can be GreenGuard certified. And GreenGuard has more than one standard. UL formaldehyde free is related to GreenGuard. GreenGuard is really part of UL, the Underwriters Laboratory, but the formaldehyde free is specifically for formaldehyde, which is a very common toxic chemical used in all kinds of products. So if you can get a UL formaldehyde free certification on the product, great. Okay, let's move on. All right, Made Safe is another certification that's been around for several years. They're not organic per se. That's not their focus. Their focus is what are all the chemicals being used in this product? And they have thousands of chemicals on their list that they check for. And if you're free of all these chemicals, you can be Made Safe certified. And that's it's a great certification. Very happy with it. And then you have the HPDC, Health Product Declaration Collaborative. And that's it's been around for a while, but it hasn't been used that much for furniture. But now it's beginning to be used for furniture, where you, the manufacturer, have to declare, what's in your product in detail, and they look it over. And if you meet their requirements, then you can use their certification. So what I'm sharing with you is there's general points, and then I'm also giving you specific certifications to try to look for them. They will make life a lot easier for you. So FSC is Forest Stewardship Council, which is a certification for wood. It also is a certification for packaging, cardboard, packaging or paper, things like that. Rainforest Alliance is associated with FSC. Okay, next. There's other things that can be helpful. So Green America certifies. Green America doesn't certify specific products, but they certify businesses that are environmentally focused. So you can make a reasonable assumption that those businesses will have products that are more environmentally focused, hopefully less toxic. PETA is a vegan thing, certified vegan. Zero Toxics is another organization that looks at some products and recognizes them, and you can go to their website and get a list of products. Control Union is a certifier that does all kinds of certifications, and so is Oregon Tilth. The Organic Content Standard is another certification that can be helpful, and that comes from Textile Exchange. And then, although not a certification, Sustainable Furnishings Council is, if somebody has their logo, that means they've stepped up to the plate and they've demonstrated that they're doing well. And we happen to have gold, so that's the certification that we put down here. All right, Advocacy. American Sustainable Business Network is an organization of many businesses, and they work together to advance sustainability and non-toxic and so on. Textile Exchange, 1% for the planet. If you see a product and you see the 1% for the planet logo, that means that they give 1% of their volume, of their total volume, to approved environmental organizations. And if you give 1% of your total volume to approved environmental organizations, then you're permitted, if you're approved, you're permitted to use the 1% logo. So if you see that 1% logo, you're looking at a company that is trying to do the right thing. Women's Voices for the Earth is one of many organizations that are promoting environmentally friendly advocacy. EWG, which used to be called Environmental Working Group, same idea. The Organic Center is affiliated with the Organic Trade Association, and they promote organic. Kids for Saving Earth does the same thing for children's product. Ecology Center, and there's the Organic Trade Association. Clean Production Action is an organization that's now getting more involved with the same idea. They're coming out with a certification themselves. Toxic Free Future is just Oregon, but they do a lot of promoting. And then the bottom, same idea. Alliance for Organic Integrity, Conservation Alliance. Green Power Partner, Native Energy, that's EPA. That's for companies who are willing to be involved in helping green electricity instead of petroleum, the traditional petroleum based. Beyond Pesticides, trying to get rid of pesticides. Okay, next. Brand suppliers and transparency. Never accept the logo, okay, until you go to the certifier and verify. So that's the same point. I'm going to make it one more time, okay? If you see a logo, just ask to see the certification and see if the certification is for that brand and for that product, okay? Just verify. That's all we're trying to say here, because there's a lot of fraudulent uses of certifications these days. Okay, next. Case study, Naturepedic Organic Mattresses. So Naturepedic Organic Mattresses have been around for 17, 18 years now. They're certified. Every single thing that you saw in the previous slides, they have every one of those certifications. The idea is to get rid of every possible toxic chemical that you can. And instead of polyurethane foam and flame retardants and GMOs and glues and so on, pesticides, whatever, it's organic cotton fabric, organic cotton fill, organic wool, organic latex, steel without lead. It's just every item is as non-toxic as possible. And people have the question, well, is it comfortable? And the answer is it's more comfortable than the regular, for several reasons. One reason is when you walk into a regular mattress store, they'll tell you all about their cooling gels to cool it all down. Well, why do they add cooling gels? Because petroleum makes you more likely to be hot and sweaty, and if you go organic, you don't need any of that. Organic mattress can actually be much more comfortable. Okay, Naturepedic started with a baby, my first grandchild. I went into a store, I was looking for a mattress, talked to the salesperson, and I could see all the toxic chemicals, and the salesperson said, come on, if it wasn't safe, the government wouldn't allow it to be sold. And that was the moment of truth when I realized why we're having such problems. So we made our own mattress, put it on the internet, and here we are today. Okay, next. Naturepedic replaces polyurethane foam and plastics with organic and plant-based materials. So we use wool, we use cotton, it's all organic, latex, PLA for sugarcane, non-GMO, of course. polyethylene food grade sugarcane. Okay, next. Naturepedic replaces flame retardant chemicals with natural low flammable. So that's the next point. If you're not going to use highly flammable materials, you don't need flame retardants. You know, so it's a more natural. It's actually more comfortable. Okay, and you don't have to deal with flammability issues and all these kinds of things. It's just a smarter way to do things. Okay, next. So we happen to go a step further. So if you look at the bigger picture here, you see that we put a zipper in so you can take the cover and pull it up, and you can see what's inside. Okay, and you can design the mattress the way you want it. You want to sleep on Jello? No problem. We'll give you Jello. If you want to sleep on concrete, no problem. We'll make it as hard as concrete. But the next, but it goes even further. With our design, if you take it home and you don't like it a month later, all you have to do is switch a component, okay? And everything is modular. And so we do 90 days for free, switch your components until it's perfect. But then each side of the bed can have a different firmness, which nobody else does, all right? So why do you have to put up with what your partner likes? And why does your partner have to put up with what you like? Each person can decide the firmness that they want. So it's healthier, it's less toxic, and it's more comfortable, and that's that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for a wealth of information there. We have got some questions, and we got just a few minutes for you to answer them.
Okay.
So I'm going to dive right in. What would you recommend the Consumer Product Safety Commission do to support sustainable furnishings in the home, if anything?
So the Consumer Product Safety Commission has not been dealing with chemicals to the degree that they should. They'll deal with physical kinds of traps and injuries, but they need to focus more on chemicals because the issue today is chemicals.
Okay, next question. Many upholstery fabrics are, of course, polyester, which is, of course, also petroleum-based. Can you comment on how polyester fabric off-gases?
Polyester fabric off-gas more than most.
It's about the same.
It's about the same. Yeah.
About the same. Okay. And is that because the off-gassing is of the finishes on the fabric, whether it is a cotton or a polyester?
Well, the cotton will not off-gas much at all, if anything, depending on what it's been treated with. The polyester is a petroleum product. So polyester may not be as bad as polyurethane foam. You know, it's not all exactly the same, but it will off-gas. So if you can use cotton instead of polyester, do so. And we can go back to comfort as well. Why am I wearing a cotton shirt and not a polyester shirt? Because cotton breathes, and cotton is much more comfortable. If I was wearing a polyester shirt, it might not be as comfortable. You see, we all live with that every day. So just think of it that way. You know, if you're taking a petroleum product, you have the chemicals, but you also have a comfort issue. If you're making your product with a natural material like cotton, okay, you reduce, if not eliminate, the chemical issues, and you also have a more comfortable product. So that's the way to think of this.
Okay, good. Could you speak to the difference between Green Guard testing, which, as you mentioned, is at different levels, and why there is formaldehyde-free also offered by UL? Does Green Guard not account for formaldehyde specifically?
Yes, they do. But GreenGuard has limitations. GreenGuard doesn't cover everything in the strictest possible way. Okay, so I don't want to go into too much detail. All I'm saying is that you can go beyond. GreenGuard is fine for what it is, but you can go way beyond GreenGuard. Okay, some of these other certifications, and the formaldehyde-free happens to be an example of that, where you can go beyond the regular GreenGuard.
Okay. Moving on to other chemicals, Krypton makes or Krypton has made products with PFAS chemicals. The question is simply, what about Krypton? So perhaps you can talk about various stain repellent treatments and the difference between them. Is that, do you feel like talking about that, or should we move on to another question? Is that something you can comment on, Barry?
I don't want to talk about any specific brand.
Okay. So what we might talk about is, what you might have a comment on, is nanotechnologies as an alternative to the use of PFAS chemical treatments.
So that's a very interesting question. I happen to be against that, but that's because I'm very much involved with the organic community and with GOTS, and GOTS says absolutely no nanotechnology. It goes against what an organic-minded thinking is. So, but can nanotechnology do the job? It may be better than PFAS, could be. I'm not saying no, but there's another consideration, and that is, if you're more natural-minded, you want to stay away from nanotechnology, because nanotechnology has its own issues.
Okay, I think this will be the last question, is about off-gassing. Do recycled plastic products off-gas as much as virgin plastic products?
What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, because they do those. The VOCs, of course, are the volatilizing, and when it's melted down and made into something else, there is volatilization there, and then that something else is going to have its period of off-gassing too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So we just have to understand the big picture. That's one thing. And then we have to be aware of all the certifications, and between those two, you can improve things quite a bit.
Yeah. Good.
And then join Sustainable Furnishings Council and get on everything that SFC offers. Take it. And
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Susan.
Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you all for being with us for today's webinar. And I hope you'll join us again next month. Thank you very much.